In the NHRA, there are many classes that make up a given national event weekend. From Pro Mod and Super Street to Comp and Top Alcohol, there is plenty to see on any given weekend. But at the end of the day, the main show consists of what is known as the Pro category, consisting of Pro Stock Motorcycle, Pro Stock, Funny Car, and Top Fuel. Of those four, only two truly reign king over the land, Funny Car and Top Fuel. Look anywhere and you can see it clear as day. From posters to billboards to even the merchandise sold at the track, Funny Car and Top Fuel are the face of the series. Because of that, it has left the other two categories feeling left in the shadows, despite being the top class that most closely resembles the cars or bikes you could see on the road. And after the safety controversy the nitro categories caused in the 2000s, it brought a headache to the rest of the field that was seen most visibly in the Pro Stock class. And in the span of 5 months in 2010, it would culminate in a spectacle between the teams and the sanctioning body. This is the story of the standoff at the starting line, the beef at 1,000 feet. The first instance of this appeared back in 2009 at the Toyo Tires NHRA Nationals in Reading, Pennsylvania. In round 1 of Pro Stock, Larry Morgan faced off against Warren Johnson. As Johnson made his run, he struggled to maintain control of his car, fighting just past the 1,000 feet mark up until he reached the finish line, wiggling his car as he pulled the parachute. He would go on to win the round, but he was visibly upset in the shutdown area after he got out of his car. As the next pair was lining up for the race, Chief starter Rick Stewart called the race off and had the officials come over the wall to check the track surface. It turned out that due to rain that had come in on the Friday and Saturday before eliminations, it caused the water to saturate the low side of the track surface. Due to the sun coming out throughout the day, it caused water to seep up to the surface, something all racing fans know as weepers. So when Warren made his pass down the track, he ran through that water and started losing control of his car. And when Gary Gerald caught up with him at his trailer, he didn't hold anything back when commenting on the situation.
Clarify or tell us what's going on here, WJ.
Well, this has been a long-time problem, and it's probably manifested itself worse in the last few years, simply from the fact that NHRA as a sanctioning body hasn't been paying due diligence to what they should be doing instead of just scalping the spectators. What's happened is the fact that they didn't slow those fuel cars down 5 or 10 years ago, as they should have, by having a tech committee that was, cognizant of what was going on. If they would have slowed them down, the tracks would have to be spending $400,000 and $500,000 just for shut-off areas for only 32 cars in the whole country. Less than 1/10 of 1% of all the drag race cars in this country are going to ruin this sport. What needs to be done is they need to slow them cars down beforehand, not after, so the tracks have to spend all the money fixing shutdown areas instead of fixing the racetrack for the rest of the competitors, the 99.9%.
Do you have any voice or any forum that you can express these feelings to and perhaps get something in progress that will help the situation?
Well, I'm sure after this telecast, there's going to be some dialogue between me and, or in fact, all of the competitors with the exception of the fuel cars and NHRA, because it's something that needs to be addressed before somebody gets killed out there. Yeah, I mean, Scott Coletta's death was one of those unfortunate things, and a number of fuel car guys that have died. We don't need that. But at the same time, there's other competitors out here that are going to probably be in trouble in mid-track, not at the finish line.
Give us specifically what the problem is as far as this racetrack or today's event.
This particular racetrack, as it is on a number of racetracks when we have these conditions, is that water starts percolating up through the race surface. You've got two areas on this track, similar to what Norwalk had, that are higher than the racetrack. There's two areas of ground that are higher than the racetrack, and what happens is that stuff doesn't run uphill, it runs downhill. Sun comes up, warms it up, it percolates up through the racetrack, and you've got moisture on the track. It's simple.
Thanks.
A similar situation would be seen the following year. At the second round of the 2010 season at Firebird International Raceway, Pro Stock would kick off having massive problems. Twice during qualifying for the Arizona Nationals, Pro Stock drivers Vinny DeSigli and Gordy Rivera would have nearly identical accidents, where it appeared at around 1,000 feet both cars would start spinning towards the wall before spinning back across the racetrack, skidding down the shutdown area on their roofs. Both drivers would be alright, but it would set off major red flags for drivers within the Pro Stock ranks that something at the track wasn't right. Multiple drivers would report similar problems when running in the left lane. Ricky Jones, who had ran in the left lane first after DeSigli's crash, would tell CompetitionPlus, "I was going okay in first, second, and third, and I put in the fourth and it just started spinning," Jones recalled. It was moving around and I just tried to work the wheel back into the groove, pulled it into high, and then the back end wanted to turn sideways real quick. I shoved in the clutch and pulled the parachutes. If I had stayed in it, something bad could have happened. Mike Edwards, who had set the fastest run in the left lane, also chimed in, stating, "It's really, really loose, spinning. The car never really settled down for me, and that's not a good feeling at all. There were too many good cars that had too many problems. I hate to blame the track, but there's obviously something going on." The race itself wouldn't go any better. Rain delays became a major factor throughout the day, making it hard to even complete the event. The same issue would still be a factor for eliminations when Pro Stock went out for round 1. When Greg Anderson got out of his car to get interviewed by ESPN, he made it very clear what he felt about the track conditions.
Of this racetrack, particularly in the left lane. You got down the track in the left lane, but it sure looked like the car was starting to skate at the end of the run.
Gary, that last 400 feet, I was this close to crashing. I've never been so close in my life to crashing. I've been driving these things a long time. I'm not trying to say I'm some kind of great driver or anything. It is impassable out there. It is complete insanity to be on that racetrack right now, and I'm scared to death we're going to lose more cars and maybe people today. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on. I have no earthly idea who's doing what's happening out there, but it's wrong, and it's absolutely a white knuckle ride, and it's ridiculous to risk your life and risk these cars out there. It's complete insanity. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you.
The event, however, would be remembered for a separate incident. When it was Top Fuel's turn to go out for round 1, Antron Brown would have one of the most iconic wrecks of the last decade. As soon as he left the starting line, the left rear wheel would break loose from the car, bouncing off the front of Antron's car and flying into a spectator area, striking a female fan. That fan would be airlifted to a local hospital, where she would later die due to the injuries. After more rain delays, the NHRA decided to cancel the rest of the day's events. Top Fuel and Funny Car would continue tomorrow, and Sportsman racing the following Friday. Pro Stock, however, would continue their races at the Gator Nationals. The NHRA cited cold weather and persisting rain, but didn't explain why the Nitro cars didn't do the same. Rumors began to speculate as to what caused the issues in Pro Stock, and thanks to Z Weinstein 15 on the NHRA subreddit, he was able to help point out that one factor in the incidents that happened that weekend was the bumpy track surface at Firebird, stating it was bumpy in both lanes, but noticeably more in the left lane with a major bump at about 1,000 feet. Following the incidents, Firebird International Raceway would spend over $200,000 repaving the 27-year-old surface. Meanwhile, the NHRA announced that starting the following event at Gainesville, all Pro Stock teams would be mandated to run a 3/4 of an inch wicker bill on the back spoiler of the car, as well as adding a 3/8 of an inch splitter to the front and raising the minimum weight of the rear of the car to 1,090 pounds. Many saw it as the NHRA jumping the gun, wanting to point to the cars being out of control, while the competitors thought that the issues with the traction compound caused the incidents in Arizona. I think the NHRA jumped the gun before they knew what was wrong. Once the NHRA found out that the reason for the problem, traction compound, they should have rescinded the rules. We don't need them. The wicker bill is the only rule change that is going to work like they want it to work. The other two won't affect the cars down track at all. To be honest, the front thing is probably going to unload the cars and make them worse. Rear weight won't do anything to change these cars at speed. It will only affect them on the starting line. We've emailed them. The crews have emailed them. Hopefully they will change the rules before Gainesville. If not, I guess we'll have to live with it. Despite the concerns, not much was affected with the rule change. Many teams adapted quickly to the new rule changes starting at the Gator Nationals, and it didn't become much of an issue. The only rule that was causing the teams trouble was the rear weight minimum that was set. While some teams were able to figure out the issues and use it as part of their tuning tools, some drivers, including Greg Anderson, said it was still an issue they needed to adapt to as time went on. It wasn't a rousing success for us, and just watching the other cars, there were other teams who had problems too. You're going to struggle with this as conditions change. We lost a valuable tool moving the weight around and tuning the car. In the first day of testing, we had a real good air and all kinds of power, and the cars were trying to flip over backwards and no one could get down the track. Then the air went away and everyone was able to make it down the racetrack. You can't count on the weather at every race you go to. While many teams noted that the rule changes didn't really affect how the cars handled towards the top end of the track, it caused issues for the drivers when they tried to get off the starting line. Adam Lambert, a technical rep for Penske Shocks, told CompetitionPlus they had spent most of that Friday helping teams adapt to the new rule changes set after Phoenix. Greg Anderson chimed in again, stating similar opinions to what Alan Johnson had expressed about a month prior, stating, "I think we jumped the gun. I think it's going too far and it's going to hurt the performance of these cars. We just don't have the tunability that we used to have. I have no idea when we'll get a handle on it, or if we ever will. They took a huge tool away from us. I spent 2 days testing and I don't know that I am any closer today than when I started." Following Gainesville, all seemed well. While many teams still felt that the rule change was unnecessary and needed to be reversed, no major incident or controversy happened in the Pro Stock category at all throughout the spring and summer swing. However, when the series arrived in Seattle for the Northwest Nationals, old wounds would be torn open and taken to a point that results in a standoff between the Pro Stock class and the NHRA that played out for the world to see. Throughout the weekend, not much was said and all seemed business as usual. Most drivers were able to make clean runs down the track, with the only comment made after Saturday's session when it was said that lane choice could be a key factor on a slick surface. On Sunday, however, all hell would break loose. During round 1, the first 2 pairs of cars completed their runs. While everyone made it down the track in one piece, just about everyone was stating they were on edge. Rob Krischer said he was shaking when he got out of the car after winning the first race over Warren Johnson. By the time Krischer got out of his car, Johnson was already yelling at the officials over the track conditions.
What's the problem, Warren, and what are you unhappy about?
I'm not unhappy about losing a run. Ron beat me fair and square, but the problem is that both of us were so damn loose out there. And, you know, they treat these tracks just for the fuel cars. Hell, Ray Charles could drive one of them damn things in his current state. There's no talent required. All they have to do is just step on it. This racetrack is just flat-ass dangerous. The last probably 400 or 500 feet.
Who do you take your case to in something like this?
Well, it'll fall on deaf ears over at NHRA because all they want is fuel cars out here.
Well,
due to the overwhelming protest from the drivers who had already run, Rick Stewart ordered the next pair of Kurt Johnson and Jason Line to shut off their cars, and the remaining Pro Stock qualifiers to pull out of the line and fall back behind the alcohol funny cars and top fuel classes. When asked what the problem was, Krischer was quick to point out that the track prep wasn't normally followed, and the track wasn't sprayed before the Pro Stocks went out. You can see if they spray it. They didn't spray it. They just ran everybody out after the funny cars. We all know after the first round of fuel and funny cars, if you don't do something with that track, you get all that clutch dust and all that crap, and you can't just say, well, we're going to run it, because it doesn't work. We used to do that. We wrecked car after car 10 to 15 years ago. Krischer would also go on to call out the director of Top Fuel and Funny Car, Dan Olson, as well as the VP of Operations, Graham Light, saying, Mr. Olson decides he ain't doing it. Then when you confront Graham, you know what he does? I'll do what the hell I want, you guys can just go park. I wish he'd come look at my computer graph. He'd understand. There is no racetrack from third gear to the end. None. Zero.
Go to Dave Reef. Yeah, I just spoke with Graham Light about the Pro Stock situation. Basically, Pro Stock is invited to come back up and complete round 1 following this round of nitromethane. Should the Pro Stock guys decide that they're not going to do it, Graham says we got 2 winners already. We'll pair them up. We'll run it as a Pro Stock final.
Wow. Greg, obviously a situation here, a critical situation as far as you and your fellow drivers are concerned in the Pro Stock ranks. What is the problem specifically?
Well, obviously we have a huge discrepancy in what us as Pro Stock drivers and crew chiefs believe we need in a racetrack surface and what the NHRA believes the Pro Stock cars need in a race surface. They prep the track how they prep it for the fuel cars. Now keep in mind they run 1,000 foot. We run quarter mile. When we go out there, they decide, well, the track looks pretty good. We shouldn't need any extra glue for the Pro Stock cars. That's 100% wrong. We preach it, we preach it, we preach it. These cars have to have glue all the way to the quarter mile. That step was skipped today. I don't know what we have to do. We have a difference of opinion there, and until we get on the same page with NHRA and they realize what we need as Pro Stock cars, we're going to wreck cars. It was an absolute miracle we didn't crash one of the first 4 cars down that racetrack. Absolutely out of control the last 8th mile. No reason for that. The racetrack service didn't get any worse overnight. It's how it was prepped or lack of prepped. And I don't want to yell at anybody. I don't want to point fingers, but it's dangerous for these cars, and it's a simple fix. And it's just a real difference in philosophy. And until we get on the same page, you're going to have problems.
Will you have glue for that final 320 feet before you go back on the track?
If we don't have glue, we can't go back on the track. The cars are not safe down there, and there's just nothing that we can do with these race cars. We can't raise the wing and make enough difference. There's nothing we can do but put glue on the racetrack, and we preach it, and they just don't really agree with what we're saying. So it's I don't know, it's a Mexican standoff, I guess you'd call it, and we're having a tough time. But yeah, until we get glue to the last part of the racetrack, there is no sense in going back out there.
Wow, interesting stand.
At the end of the day, cooler heads would prevail. Pro Stock would continue on despite the chaos caused at the starting line, and the rest of the event would finish as normal with Greg Anderson taking the win. Following the event, finger pointing immediately began to take place, with all eyes squared directly on the NHRA and its officials. Some Pro Stock drivers accused the NHRA of not prepping a safe track for them to race on. Dan Olson, however, refuted that claim. stating that the NHRA had sprayed the track at 10:20 a.m. the morning of eliminations. Many pointed to this claim, stating it was them towing the company line. These statements would be verified. Noted track technician Lanny McGlizzy said that he witnessed the track crews did in fact spray the track before each session of qualifying for Pro Stock throughout the weekend, and also sprayed the track before eliminations. The NHRA then went immediately into Pro Stock following Funny Car, the only time the NHRA didn't spray the track before Pro Stock ran all weekend. Questions then arose of why did the NHRA opt to not spray the racing surface. Olson's reasoning was that when the officials met in between sessions to decide whether to spray the track, they were walking out of their shoes within 10 seconds. McGleazy's opinion from observing his radar gun on the track surface was that the track was actually stickier than normal. Other theories pointed to moisture that was in the air earlier in the day. One even pointed to an infamous dip in the track surface left lane, but then the questions arose about why was it only an issue on Sunday and not all weekend. Answers would never really be found. The only follow-up we would truly see would be the following week at Sonoma when Funny Car drivers Bob Tasca and Jim Head took note of Warren Jones's comments, when he said that Ray Charles could even drive a fuel car because all Charles would have to do is match the gas because racing funny cars required no talent. Head and Tasca gave Johnson a challenge to drive a funny car blindfolded. Johnson responded saying, "You never know, I've driven about everything at this point, but I've got bigger fish to fry." He would then go on to call both Jim and Bob laptop cowboys, while also coming close to reigniting the brand loyalty wars, with Tasca calling Johnson's Pontiac a hunk of shit GM, while Johnson said, "If you ever wear a Ford shirt while shaving in the mirror, it will read DROF, meaning driver returning on foot." The next time we would see an incident as bad as what happened in Phoenix and Seattle would come with the 2014 Carolina Nationals. Drivers within the Pro Stock ranks noted that they struggled to get down the track. Jed Coughlin was quoted saying that the car felt fine through the first 4 gears, but when he shifted in the 5th around a 660-foot mark, he felt the tire spike. From then on, he wrestled the car down the track to win his round 1 matchup against Greg Anderson. Early in that round, Richie Stevens Jr. had a big moment in the left lane that would force him to abort his run and lose the round. After watching that, many drivers began to pull out of line one by one and opted not to race due to safety concerns, regardless of the NHRA's stance on the matter. However, the drivers wouldn't need to wait too long to be proven right. Later in round 1, Alan Johnson would go on head-to-head with V Gaines. As soon as the cars left the line, Johnson's car would shoot straight towards the center. Despite wrestling the car to keep straight, Johnson clipped one of the orange timing blocks, disqualifying him from the race. V Gaines would approach the 1,000-foot mark of the track where he started to veer left, but would soon snap right, flipping him onto his roof and enduring one of the most violent wrecks Pro Stock has seen in the last decade. Because of that, NHRA would spend all remaining eliminations in Carolina and would continue the races at the following event at the Fall Nationals in Dallas, Texas. When asked what caused the track issues, Graham Light pointed specifically to the weather. Heavy rain had fallen the week of the race, causing water to seep up into the racing surface between the rubber and the asphalt, which caused the rubber to peel out from the racetrack. Track crews spent hours scraping up the loose pieces of the track and massaging it to race-ready conditions, stating this isn't just an issue at Charlotte, but other tracks as well. While Light couldn't say for certain that issue is what caused the problems in Pro Stock, then that would be something they would look into and discuss, believing it would not be a problem they would face when they returned the following March. In 2020, the issue would come up again, this time at the Midwest Nationals in Gateway, Illinois. The issue arose not because the NHRA did not spray the track, but because they didn't drag the lanes to make sure the compound stuck to the surface. What had happened was the track crews had sprayed the track before eliminations. Kenny Delco was over a violent wreck, flipping towards the end of his run. Derek Kramer would go to Facebook to reveal that his tire had actually ripped up pieces of the track during his burnout, with many other drivers again complaining of ill-handling runs down the track. NHRA canceled the rest of the day's events for Pro Stock and Pro Mod, and would continue the event again at the Fall Nationals in Dallas. In the end, we wouldn't really ever find a resolution to what truly happened with the Pro Stock debacle in Seattle. To this day, the Wicker Bill is still the same as it was after Phoenix. While the issue with track safety still runs rampant within the Pro Stock ranks, the NHRA has shown its willingness to adapt to new rule changes when listening to its drivers compared to what transpired between the teams and officials in Seattle. Whether the divide between the class and the sanctioning body is still ongoing has yet to be settled. What is settled is that the Pro Stock is one of the most competitive classes on any given weekend in the pro ranks. While it may be a Chevy-heavy class due to past rule changes, it is without a doubt a class that knows how to put on a show when it's their turn on the strip. So if you ever decide to watch or go to an NHRA national event, I implore you to stick around and watch the Pro Stocks run and cheer them on. It'll always be a sight you'll want to see. that'll conclude the end of the video. I want to give a big thanks to any of you guys who stuck around following the 1,000 feet video. I've been blown away with the reception and feedback I got from it, and it has given me the drive to continue to wanting to make these videos and turn this into something that can spread the NHRA to a wider audience. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MightyMac03. If you're new to the channel or returning and still haven't, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on the video so I know the direction for where to head. I have the remainder of my videos planned out for the rest of the year, so until then, this has been Mighty Mac, and I will see you next time.